Good afternoon, everybody. I have just about one, so we'll go ahead and get started. Just a couple of housekeeping things before I turn it over. We do want this to be interactive, so please feel like you can ask questions, pop them in the chat, raise your hand, unmute. But if you're not speaking, if you could go ahead and mute, that would be great so we don't get any feedback. I'm going to go ahead and keep letting people in. And we'll get to the main event in just a second, but I'd like to introduce our fabulous sponsor, Lauren Bruning with Topside Federal Credit Union is with us today. So Lauren, take it over.
Thank you so much, Kim. Good afternoon. I'm Lauren Bruning. As members of FAR, you are all eligible for membership at Topside Federal Credit Union. As a member-owned not-for-profit credit union, we're truly here to support you. The great thing about a credit union is that our members are our top priority. Each member of the credit union has a $1 share of the credit union. So we're truly working for you, our boss, our members. So some of the ways you'll see that at Topside are things like our youth saves program. It starts at 5% on the first 500 until a child's 20th birthday. And some of the benefits with that include when they're under the age of 9, a cute little quarter saver, once that's full of $10 worth of quarters, we actually match it. So we'll congratulate them on learning how to save. And when they turn 9, they'll actually start to get $5 for the first 4 A's on their report card at the end of every school year. So $20 every single summer for having good grades, because we want to celebrate with them. At 9, we also allow students to start getting a checking account with parents' approval, of course, because if you wait till they're 18, they're no longer listening. They know everything. So when they're 9 years old, parents can come alongside them. We have a great My Card Rules app where you can turn their card off, turn it on, add spending limits. So it's a great feature to teach kids how to spend money with training wheels. I actually use that one myself because as soon as my card swipes, I get a notification that it's been touched. So that's not just for the kids, that's also for adults too. I like to know exactly who's touching my money and when. Another opportunity for our youth are when they're 16 and 17, they receive a $25 bonus for direct deposit. So we truly are working with our students right up until they graduate. Another way we serve our members is 8% on the first 500 for our military saves accounts. If you're military active, dependent, retired, or reserve, we want to honor you and thank you for your service. Currently, we are offering for mortgages rates as low as 1.99, 2.83 with a 5.5 ARM. And then another opportunity that we have made available this year that won't be going away ever is our 1% cash back up to $250 on auto loans. So if you refinance with us, maybe you recently bought a car, or maybe you're thinking about it, you can take those bells and whistles that they might offer you at the dealership and then refinance with us and get some of your money back as well as our low rates. All of those can be taken advantage of on our website. Really, you can do almost anything on our website between dispersing a loan, transferring money, or even adding bill pay. If I didn't work at the credit union, I'd never walk in because I really can do everything I need to do with my money, including when you're out of the area, you need to get your money. We are part of the All Point Network. There's 55,000 ATMs in the United States where you can get to your money without any fees. We do, however, have 2 locations in the Fredericksburg area, one in Massaponax next to Firestone across from Publix, and then one closer to downtown Fredericksburg, right next to Almonds Barbecue and across from the University of Mary Washington. We have 2 other great branches in King George as well. And if you'd like to take advantage of anything I've shared today, you can do that right on our website, and it only costs $1 to join. And that's the only stipulation for your account. As long as you keep it active and have that $1 in there, there are no other minimum requirements or monthly fees. If you have any questions, I will drop my information in the chat, and thank you so much.
Lauren, thank you. And one thing I started doing with these virtual calls, I know we all love getting together in Zoom land. It's so easy, but we're not able to share a meal or anything. So on behalf of our sponsor, I have been sending Starbucks gift cards to folks. So when you get it, it is not for me. As much as I love y'all, it will be from Topside Federal Credit Union. So thank you in advance to Lauren and Topside for sponsoring this. We'll go ahead and get those Starbucks cards out after this is over. If you did not register, that's fine. Just make sure that I've got your name and last name so I can make sure I pull your email address. If you're on the call and you just want to shoot me a chat with your email address if I don't have you down, we will go ahead and get those out. So without further ado, I'm very happy to introduce our special guest today. John Holden is the Director of Economic Development for Stafford County, and certainly no stranger to these calls. We have heard from him many times. It is always very exciting to hear about what is happening in the county. So John, take it away. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you all for joining. I am working from home. My dog is right down there. If he hears the UPS truck, you will hear him. And I appreciate a chance to share with you. I know many of you, most of you are primarily involved in residential real estate, but I like to be sure to, my focus is obviously more on the commercial, economic, industrial side of things. However, having said that, I'm gonna share with you a critical economic development statement, and that is that as we continue to grow commercial and industrial opportunities and help foster job creation in new sectors in Stafford, we will, the primary issue facing employers right now, as many of you know, is workforce, whether they be restaurants or large employers. So I am personally going to continue to encourage and foster the expansion of workforce opportunities, including a variety of housing options for workforce in Stafford. So I'm here with my friends going across the galaxy. What I thought I'd do is share with you some of the activities in our part of the galaxy, primarily sharing a map, and just I'd really like you to ask any questions as I go along, whether that be in the chat or if you unmute. I want to give you a sense of the larger projects going on in the county, but also emphasize that it's all not about the large projects that I'm going to share with you. A lot of what we're doing now is focused on entrepreneur, small business development. As you may have heard, you should know that we are the home of the Virginia Smart Community Testbed. What that means primarily is we are a centroid, if you will, of a place where entrepreneurs that are dabbling or have ideas around technology, which we all use in our business one way or another, can be in contact with us so that we can foster their exploration of their business or their product, and perhaps even put them into a pilot project in the test bed. But what I'd like to do is, again, share with you, share. I think you should be able to see a map now, nothing fancy. That's Google Earth. Of course, Stafford County, from north to south. What I'd like to do is share with you some of the projects that are going on in Stafford County, if that's all right. And if anyone has any questions or comments, please interrupt. I'm going to switch this. I like this mode a lot better. So in the northern part of the county, one of the bigger projects going on right now is the development of the Quantico Corporate Center. There is office space available in that, but more importantly, there's actually at least 3 new facilities going into the ground. One is the expansion of XCore. They will also be, will have a ribbon cutting for their second floor in their current building, which will include a SCIF, which you may or may not know is a secure facility for contractors to bid on government contracts. Also going into Quantico corporate center is 2 buildings totaling about 170,000 square feet of flex space that's being done by Merit Properties. Again, an opportunity for new business growth in the Quantico Corporate Center.
Hey, John, we've already had a question. Just thought I would pop it up there. What about, why are we having so many storage facilities? I don't know if you know the answer to that one, but what's the proliferation of storage facilities?
It's not something, frankly, we promote. I think it's obviously in reaction to the market. I think it's primarily because we are a military, the Marine base, and people, families coming and going, serving in the service, need a place to store their materials. It is something actually I think we're looking at in the planning department to perhaps make it more targeted. And it's right now, I think it's available in every zone that we have. So I think we're kind of looking to try to at least tap on the brakes for those. So I think it's the nature of the market. They're relatively affordable and efficient to put in the ground. And after that, they quite frankly just make money like laundromats. Thank you for that. And please interrupt. I'm not sure I can see the chat while I'm doing this. So
I'll monitor that for you, John. Don't worry.
Okay, great. Moving down, two of the areas, of course, which is always of interest in Stafford, is the Garrison project. All I can say is paperwork is being filed back and forth between permits, and we expect dirt to be moving perhaps later this year.
For those folks who are unfamiliar, can you expand on what that project is?
Yep, the Garrison is a long discussed and planned multi-use facility project, residential. The thing that got so much attention, it's roughly in this area, I don't remember exactly where, was the development of a new movie theater in Stafford. Of course, that was announced prior to COVID, and there's been lots of changes in the movie industry, but we think that Regal Theaters is still on board in that site. But it'll be multi-use, multi-family units. I'm not sure if they'll be rental or condoed, and some single families in phase 2 or 3. And then, of course, I can only tell you that we are working on projects. That's all I can say about the Quiet Town Center, which of course is where the movie theater used to be, I guess, in the day before I got here. And we hope to move forward on some ideas with that. Of course, the county has no real say on those. Those are things that we don't own. We don't control the conditions in those.
I don't want to belabor the town center point, but I just wanted to ask, and you can't share details, but are you optimistic that we will see some movement there, or is it just too hard to say right now, especially in this COVID never-ending world?
I'll say I'd be conservative. It is hard to say, but I'm also optimistic. There's some things in the works, but that's all I can say now.
You're conservatively optimistic. Okay. I like it.
Of course, Embry Mill and Exit 140, which it's often, it's the whole Field of Dreams analogy. Once that exit opened, it's clear that development follows that. There's a lot of activity in that area, which will include some retail, kind of off interstate retail, lodging at the exit closer to this area right here, which we generally call Burns Corner, fast food and some sit down market type establishments. Of course, the shopping center around Publix we've had 2 or 3 companies go into some of the smaller facilities, the spaces there. And of course, they're obviously eager to fill those spaces as well. Another 2 projects, industrial in nature or larger in nature, would be the development of Merit Properties at Austin Ridge. I mentioned Merit. They've come to Stafford and are a quality developer, developing in the Quantico Corporate Center. They're also developing approximately 390,000 square feet of flex space, roughly in this area right here. They will be extending Austin Ridge and coming down into this area. And secondarily, of course, is the continued development of the DHL facility, which is generally right in this area at the end of Bradbury Place. That you should have heard by now is a 570 plus employees distribution facility operated by DHL. Also in this area, of course, is the continued development and interest in downtown Stafford. To be very clear, downtown Stafford is an area. It's an area that is roughly goes along the old courthouse road to the interstate and back along Hospital Boulevard, and generally this area, right? It is not one specific project. Downtown Stafford is a large area that we envision long-term developing as a mixed-use, higher density development area. The board has approved a new planning zone called the Urban District 5, which is now available for property owners in this area to seek rezoning and develop those kinds of projects. The two specific projects that are underway are, of course, at the corner here of Courthouse and Route 1, just across from Government Center. That is 6 acres owned by Gerald Properties. Again, mixed use, 309 multifamily units with a park, cafe, and various other office or commercial spaces. That's 6 acres. That's called Fountain Park. Just to the west of Fountain Park, generally along this area and in this area, the county owns 23 acres, which has been rezoned to that Urban District 5 zone. And we will be seeking a private partner developer for the development of that acreage. We expect to be releasing essentially our request for proposals this fall for a partner to develop that acreage. So that's the central part of the county.
Before you march down Route 1, I got a question about, can you elaborate on the commercial flex space at Austin Ridge? What kind of businesses are being targeted?
Those will be, the beauty of the flex spaces is just that. It will be more likely small, medium-sized manufacturers or assembly of products, quote, industrial, if you will, not heavy industrial. Perhaps some other types of uses like, I'm not sure, but it will not be things like retail or commerce, customer-centric type places generally.
And what is the timeline for the garrison?
I don't have an exact timeline for that. So again, traveling down the corridor, we have a few projects actually along Route 1, but of course you've probably heard a lot about the developments in what we call Centerport, which is this area, of course, by the airport. First of all, the airport is extending its runway. It will be completed by summer of next year to 6,000 feet. What that means is that provides, what do I want to say, corporate jets or corporate jets.
Thank you.
The ability to fly all the way to the East Coast without refueling because they are heavier, they can put more fuel on and need that extra distance. So this Centerport, the airport, Stafford Airport, will not be a commercial airport. It will be a continue to be a corporate airport. And there's tremendous opportunity in that in terms of some of the developments going on in these areas. For example, you can imagine, although I'm not quoting this, you know, the executives from DHL being able to fly in right to Stafford, do their work and go home that day. So that's an important part of it. Also in this area, there is, if you've been by there, 2 buildings in the ground, almost ready for occupancy. One is roughly in this area near the airport. It's a 457,000 square foot distribution center. A tenant has not been announced for that building, but it likely would employ anywhere between conservatively 300 to 500 persons. Literally across the street from that facility, kind of between this area here, in this area, is a 210,000 square foot facility, of which the tenant has not been announced, although an announcement may be coming out tomorrow. So I can't tell you, but it's probably one of the worst kept secrets in Stafford County. That facility will probably employ anywhere between 100 and 150 persons. So already those 2 alone, combined with DHL, we're talking over 1,000 new jobs in Stafford County in the next 3 to 12 months. Also along Centerport, there are plans for other large distribution facilities or manufacturing facilities, generally down this way. There is currently plans have been approved for a 650,000 square foot facility roughly in this area. And there's plans being discussed for a 900,000 square foot facility kind of in this area. So this area was primarily designed and has now started to bear fruit as a major industrial area for Stafford County in the region, primarily focused on the warehouse and distribution.
So John, speaking of jobs, I seem to remember a while ago, there was, many years ago now, there used to be a sign as you came by the airport that talked about how many jobs had been brought to Stafford in so many years. It was a long time ago. So do you feel like the county is making some progress in bringing some of those jobs into the county as we're looking at, you know, things picking back up on 95? Do you feel like y'all are making some headway and bringing some opportunities, like, you know, significant opportunities that could maybe reduce some of that pressure on 95?
Well, absolutely. And that's as I've shared with the board, as I just shared with all of you, there's probably just in the new businesses coming to Stafford, these larger projects, there's easily 1,000 to 1,500 new jobs that are being created, not by us, but by the private sector in Stafford County in the next 18 months. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but if people, and those are jobs that are not currently in the marketplace, generally speaking. So that gives us diversification, which is critical in economic development. It also diversifies our tax base. But it does create jobs, which of course you need people to fill. And in my humble opinion, the more housing options we have in our region, including Stafford, that are closer to the places of employment, you can have some influence on the famous T word that everyone talks about in Stafford, traffic. I'm not saying that's a solution at all. Don't get that impression, but it is critical for the companies that are going into those facilities that they have a workforce. And I think the options of housing are important. And I mean all types of housing, from multifamily, rental, or condo to single family. So I, you know, from an economic development perspective, I encourage us to continue to look at the smart, and I mean that, healthy way to develop those units in our region.
Thanks, John.
That's the big news. Of course, down on the southern, what I call the east-west corridor here in the south, there's continued development of some, what I'd say, some smaller retail, some health-related projects in that area. There are some residential developments that have been approved. We're also continue to have interest and focus on particularly this corridor between 95 and Route 1 as a redevelopment area, kind of improving the economic conditions in that area, which begins with infrastructure. This is a hub zone, which is one of our 2 hub zones roughly in this area here. And there is a residential development, multi-use, but primarily residential development being proposed in this area that will actually complement the hub zone and our ability to retain the hub zone. And that's coming before the board in September. But at the same time, as that goes in, we're looking at ways to redevelop the infrastructure that will allow some continued development in this area in particular, including off the interchange. That's some of the heavy duty industrial manufacturing distribution projects going on. We do have also of more of a quality of life kind of interests. Further out, Route 3, going down the river and east, roughly in this area by McDuff Green Park. You may know, but I'm going to share with you that we're working closely with the Potomac tribe, the Native American tribe. They are continuing to improve and develop. They have a lease with the county for a facility right here as a cultural center, a living cultural center of the Potomac tribe. We'll be working with them to provide some additional infrastructure in there. And we're also looking at other ways we can develop this park as a cultural, ecological attraction, if you will. So that's done about a half hour. I don't want to just keep blabbling on. I can. I'd rather love to hear any questions or comments about anything we're doing or interests that you may have.
Yeah, folks, feel free to pop in the chat or unmute yourself. I'll just ask sort of a generic question, but with all of the construction coming down 95 with the extension of the hot lanes, are you seeing that as impetus for future development in Stafford County? How are you looking at those lanes other than just from the narrow view of it might make traffic better?
Well, that's regionally, and I mean mega regionally, that's the most critical thing, is that it will improve the traffic flow. Clearly, it is absolutely anytime you improve access, whether it be on the internet or through broadband or through highways and roads, you improve the economic conditions for a community to thrive. The fact that things have changed since early March of 2020 in terms of workforce and people working at home and the things we're doing now. But the fact remains that our region in Stafford is an out commuting area. And that's just the nature of being on the southern edge of the DMV and the economic opportunities there. However, that has changed, of course, with COVID. I don't think it's going to be a significant, it's going to be a change, but I think the traffic flow will improve because of the hot lanes. And it will also provide opportunities for people to work from Stafford, from home, or from an office in Stafford. And then they only have to commute into the DC area, once or twice a month or something to that nature. Since you brought it up, I would like to share with you on October 20th, the Stafford Economic Development Authority is having its annual business appreciation reception. And it's being sponsored by Transurban, by the way. So we appreciate that from them. I didn't want to make this a sales pitch, but on October 20th, we do have an annual business appreciation reception, which we did not have last year. It's generally in May. We're bringing it back in October to celebrate everyone that was able to adjust their businesses and adjust life through the pandemic. That's the theme. So we're also having it at the new renovated Holiday Inn convention meeting area in Stafford. You don't know the former, I think it was a Wyndham or Wingate at the on Route 17, right by the interchange by Riverside Theater, is now a Holiday Inn. And the owners have put in over $2 million and renovated that into quite frankly, Stafford's largest meeting space. Over 200 people can, I think maybe 300, can be facilitated in that space. It actually includes a small movie theater as well. So we're going to be highlighting that at the reception on October 20th. I'm hoping to see many of you there, safely, of course.
Please send us that information. We'll make sure that we share that.
I will do that.
That's great. So speaking of businesses in the pandemic, I know we've talked about this every time we've had you on. What's the feedback that you're getting? How are people faring currently? I know that we don't have a lot of restrictions in Virginia right now, so hopefully most places are open and able to operate, but what's that feedback you're getting?
I think we're doing well. From what I'm hearing from the business community, there were certainly some people took some hits. We actually will be putting a survey out to those companies that we did provide some grants to over the last year. However, I think there's still a lot of adjustment being made in the broad hospitality sector, obviously hotels and meeting spaces, but also in the restaurant environment. Although the many adjusted and some places actually have done better in the last year because of the entrepreneurial nature and being able to adjust and actually sell more product in different ways, whether that be a meal or some of the breweries selling beer differently. So that's been a positive aspect of it, but that's not to minimize the fact that many businesses and more importantly, individuals and families have been impacted by either reduced hours or layoffs. So we will be having a series of programs coming out to address those changes as a result of the county's, the county receives some funds from the American Rescue Plan. And so the board is currently evaluating how we might help businesses primarily, but the change in economics around the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have questions? I know I'm dominating. Don't be shy.
I'm just
Go
gonna,
ahead.
yeah, just a curious, as a Ferry Farm resident, what is limiting any kind of like grocery retailer to come and fill the food line there? It's been vacant for, I think we're going on 5 years. I mean, I know that they look at rooftops, they look at demographics. I mean, Ferry Farm has been there for a number of years. We have all sorts of infill. There's households. I don't think it's proximity to other retailers other than Walmart, but I'm just wondering why, why it's been vacant so long. It might be the landlord has jacked up the rent, whatever. But what do you think on a county perspective of letting that, I think, prime real estate just sit there vacant for, I think we're going on 5 years at least, probably at least 4.
So in the broad perspective, it's all about, the market and the fact that there is tremendous product and diversity of product literally across the river, right? So that has, historically is one of the reasons why shopping centers like Ferry Farm went into decline and have a hard time coming out of it, because the what's called the gravity theory of retail has amassed across the river, quite frankly. Now, having said that, people like us try to help the market, readjust, right? I think you may see that the owner is putting on new facades on that facility. There is a new local, get the name, I think it's called Lily, ice cream bar going in there, right next to Dairy Queen or very close to Dairy Queen. So plenty of ice cream there. But, we continue to work with the landowner and his agents on, opportunities. There have been a couple that have been discussed. I will tell you that further up the road at Chatham Heights, the former grocery store there, which again predates me, I forget if that's a Food Line or Safeway, whatever it was. That has been purchased and will be an expansion of a medical facility called Virginia Oncology, which will be a great service to our region because they will provide an expanded service for that critical medical services in our region. So there is some redevelopment happening. That's the thing about those, what I would say, 60s, 1970s, 80s shopping centers is they have to rediscover what they can be. And a lot of it's based on, there's some that have converted elsewhere in the country to, for example, data centers. But you have to be the right size, right? You have to have the right clearance and all those kinds of things. So it's really unique in case by case basis. But it's a good question, Clay. Thank you.
We had a question in the chat about what about the area at the entrance of Augustine? Any chance of getting gas along that 630 corridor?
That's the first time I've heard that question, and certainly one of the things that we will take that under advisement. Let's say that our office, we work within the market, right? So if someone comes forward with a proposal like that, we'll certainly work with them to do that. But I don't know of any, but we certainly can consider any gas options up that way.
So we're hearing some breaking news that maybe Big Lots is coming to the shopping area that Clay was talking about near Ferry Farm. Any truth to that?
I cannot confirm that.
Confirm,
I really don't
nor
know.
deny.
Because I really don't know.
Yeah.
My inside source at Moonstar said that she was not aware of that. So and that's right beside it. So she was.
I've heard that rumor.
I've heard the rumor too.
I do not know if it's true.
So Big Lots did that shopping center on 208 in Spotsylvania. They went into the old Weiss. So maybe we can look to our friends to the south to see that, Big Lots does that. So to be continued, Randy. We'll see if that happens. Any other questions from the audience?
If I could, I would, if I may, Kim,
Please
I
go
would
ahead.
ask what some of you are seeing in your business, right? I know the housing market is still hot as ever, or is it? It may have ticked down a bit, but what are you seeing in terms of, I see the numbers on supply and demand, but I'm curious more of the personal stories, just briefly from anyone.
Yes. So just so you all know, John gets my monthly updates. So John can see that the numbers, I feel like, have held very steady. So there isn't a real story in the statistics unless you look really hard at maybe new pendings or a little bit of active listings, definitely in new listings, but most of the metrics that I'm sharing with elected officials are similar to the whole year going back into 2020. So the personal stories behind those numbers, I think, are what's changing the most. So I'm going to be like a 5th grade teacher. If somebody doesn't volunteer, I'm going to pick on y'all. All right, Clay, I'm going to pick on you because I can see your face first.
Just current market conditions.
Yeah, what are some of those anecdotal stories behind the numbers, right? Because it looks like things are really strong still, prices are still going up, but you hear, I feel like this refrain a lot, that things are starting to normalize. What does that mean to you, Clay?
So
in Halfway Realty's experience, what does beginning to normalize mean?
Speaking with one of my agents this morning, I think we were talking about it, and we don't really see that there's going to be price. We don't forecast like any kind of price decreases or anything like that, but we do hope to see some type of normalcy within the transaction where the buyers do not have to sacrifice a home inspection and every single contingency just to get the house. However, we're still receiving offers that are from buyers of a mentality in March where they have to literally do every single thing and give you their firstborn to be able to even have a chance to be considered to get under contract. So, I'm still getting those offers. My sellers are still enjoying those offers. I think the quantity of them is a little bit lower. There are little pockets of softening here and there, but yeah, it's still tough for a buyer, very tough for a buyer. And I think, and process wise, I feel like sellers have enjoyed this. We've been asking sellers to sell their house for the past 18 months. Like, please, we need housing. And so I feel like they've finally gotten through to that. But sometimes we're seeing, as far as when I'm taking buyers out, the condition of the homes and what the sellers are willing to do to go on the market doesn't seem like they're that motivated to do anything special. You know, it's kind of like you'll walk into some listings and you're like, wow. They're just throwing this out there and seeing if it goes. And so I would really hope for the sake of both parties, both buyers and sellers, that we would have some normalcy within the transaction itself. Sellers trying a little bit harder to get on the market, buyers being able to have a little bit more leverage within the contract, a little more balance. I think it'll make both parties actually a little happier down the road.
Thanks, Clay. That's helpful to me to hear these stories as I'm talking to the company.
John, I will open it up to other members, but I did just want to comment that one thing I think has been interesting is, and for years now, we've had this idea that perhaps affordable housing is impacting companies' decisions to locate here, and that's not a metric that I've heard repeated by a lot of businesses. They look at the labor pool, the available labor pool, not necessarily housing availability, especially because this is now a nationwide problem. They're experiencing these kind of crunches, all over the place. So just want to ask you, when you're talking with prospective businesses, does housing and housing affordability or supply come up as an issue for them?
Yes, secondarily to the first question, which is, can I get a workforce? Can I get employees? Now, what we tend to do, and as people know, people will drive for work, right? Even in traffic. So the labor market that we draw from includes all the way up into Northern Virginia and, of course, South to Carolina and East and West, right? So it's a bigger area of which employers can draw employees, particularly if they're paying well, right? So, but having said that, some of them dive in a little more and say, well, okay, but are there housing options for my workers, right? Particularly those that are coming from a corporate level and are perhaps shifting people to a new facility. And this isn't just Stafford, but in general, the C-level people at the new facility in our region will want to live here, right? So they're going to look for houses that meet their needs. So I would say it's a quick corollary to the first question that's asked by businesses is, can I get a workforce? The next question is, where will they live, and what options do they have, right? And it depends by industry sector in terms of wages and all that kind of thing of what they're paying in terms of the types of housing that is necessary in a region. I see in the chat a question about any concerns about these employees, distribution centers being able to find affordable homes, and what would the average salaries be? Yes, that's a question, right? These jobs are generally in the distribution area, range from the upper 15s to 18 an hour. So they're good paying jobs. They are not, executive, IT tech jobs. However, they do take technical skills because the people working in these centers are essentially running robots. They're not, running up and down and dragging things. They're running robots that move the product around. So these are good jobs. In fact, the ones created by DHL had to at least meet the minimum per capita wage in Stafford County to be eligible for the incentive.
So I know I've got a question from Sherry. She had chatted me once. Sorry, then Clay's next. So Sherry and then Clay.
Yes. Okay, yeah, thanks, Kim. So just to kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Clay was saying, as far as what we're seeing from a title company perspective, definitely seeing home inspections coming back into play as a contingency on the contract. And what's really big and what I'm very happy about is seeing appraisals coming back. I know that over the past 6 months, we have heard from a lot of homeowners that are having so many issues with their houses right now because of so much of the waiving of the home inspection and the appraisal. So happy to see both of those things coming back a little bit. Also, I've seen a few contracts with some seller paid closing costs. So I think that that's just a little nod to the shift of getting back to where it's not all like Clay said, that the buyers are having to just give up everything, including their firstborn child. So, but yeah, so just one thing though too, I would like to ask your panelists, how is Stafford County, we've talked about a lot of building coming in, you've talked about affordable housing, but we've also got like the price of new construction. So how do you balance that in the county and in the community where you are trying to make affordable housing, but at the same time, you're looking at a new construction house, starting at 600,000.
So I can't, I don't work directly with home builders as much, but I can tell you, we started holding a new series of programs we're calling Beer and Business Quarterly. We had the first one at 6 Bears, the next one is at Venture. But Merit Properties was the sponsor of that. And they related a story where, the backlog of getting materials to build buildings is significant. They were talking about getting a spring for a garage door that used to take, a couple of days to get is now on back order for 2 months. So it's slowing all that down. But again, I think that's a major shift in the major economy that everyone's catching up to it. I think that'll see its way through. And of course, as you know, as that has an impact on price. So as that supply is shortened, those prices will go up. And, I don't see the prices of new houses going down anytime in the near future. So I do encourage that our entire region should be exploring a range of housing options, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll just throw in my 2 cents. I think that people are going to have to get real creative when it comes to affordable housing. I was just talking to a builder the other day that does townhome building in Stafford County, $140,000 for a lot for a townhome in Stafford County. So how do you put an affordable house on land that's that expensive? It just, the market fundamentals just do not work to build market rate affordable housing. It's very, very challenging when you're talking about new construction. So Clay, I know you raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, y'all kind of come around to my question, but I wanted to get, I wrote it down. So what was the Stafford EDA's opinion of the downzoning measure that the Board of Supervisors took on over the past 18 months? What was your opinion prior to it being voted on? And then second part of that question is, what effects does it specifically have on your efforts to bring business to the area?
First off, I'm an employee of the county, not the EDA. I sit on the EDA board.
Okay, sorry.
And, that's all right. I just cover my eye and ask, to be honest with you. The EDA took no position on the downzoning or the healthy growth initiative that took place in the county. The EDA itself did not take a position on it. As far as what my role in economic development and that impact it has had, the biggest impact, and it goes beyond just that rezoning or downzoning. I said from the day I got here, one of 3 things that is most critical in economic development is the message. And we've worked hard to make sure our message is clear, that we encourage new investment and business growth, period, right? Now, where that gets difficult is where, projects get turned down for whatever reasons, perhaps good reasons. It just, continue that exasperates a negative message, right? Now, we don't want to pave everything and industrialize everything, right? We want to have a healthy community, but that does require long-term continued investment in growth. So that's John Holden's response to your question. I didn't have any personal, I don't have one personal position one way or the other on the downzoning myself, but the fact is we want to promote a healthy, growing community, and that's one approach to it. But we also have to encourage continued investment.
All right, thank you, John.
I'm not a politician, but I try.
Very diplomatic answer. Any other questions or input from folks on the call? I know we're getting close to 2 o'clock. Well, great conversation. And John, thank you so much for your time and your insights and your willingness to share what's going on. It is always exciting to hear about the stuff that is going on in all of our counties. And Stafford certainly leads the way on that. And we'll be looking for some announcements soon about great projects you're working on.
Thank you. And I look forward to it, a few months out. And, if anyone, Kim, if you have any suggestions on other things you'd like to hear differently, I'd be glad to, alter a little bit how I present it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Any feedback, please let us know. And please be on the lookout for those Starbucks gift cards, courtesy of our sponsor, Topside Federal Credit Union.
And thank you all. Thank you all.
Yeah. With that, everybody have a great day.
Thank you.